I think out of all the friends I have right now, only 2 of them can actually listen. I think that people refuse to talk about themselves these days, refuse to share about their feelings because people don't know how to listen anymore. Not that they ever did, actually. It is not something that is taught. It is not something that is collectively understood. I think it is very vaguely expressed when somebody talks about how people love to change the subject to themselves when somebody is opening up. And it is common knowledge that we don't care about what you think or what you feel when we are sharing about our own problems. I find that there's so many friends that I can't even properly talk to about my feelings because they don't understand how to listen. Too quick to rush to trying to give advice. When you share about what you feel, you want somebody to carefully listen. You want somebody to show they care. But of course, it is entirely a you problem if you expect people to care. You should understand that it is perfectly understandable if they have no capacity or they don't really want to listen to you right now. And then we shouldn't harbor any anger about it. But if they do wish to listen, I feel like many people or most people are not educated or have no idea how to listen to others. Jordan Peterson talks about this in his book, How to Properly Listen. Nobody actually listens. You have to be very careful and be very attentive to every word they say, everything they're trying to express. And our job as a listener is not to give the right answers, it's not to give the right advice, but to ask the right questions, to help them figure it out for themselves, help them figure out the answer for their own context. I think being a good listener is incredibly difficult. I think being a good listener requires a lot of time and capacity. To be a good listener, you have to take care of your mental health, and you have to be willing to be cutthroat and not be afraid of being the perpetrator of their negative emotions, and to tell them honestly when you do not have the capacity to listen to them. If you don't have the ability to tell people that you don't have the capacity to listen to them, then not only will you become resentful, you get bored of the conversation, you won't actually listen, and you rush to give advice to get them to shut up. The first step to being a good listener is to let them know if you don't have the capacity to listen. And it is perfectly understandable. It's just hard to say because it's not something that is naturally accepted in social norms. For somebody to start talking about their feelings and then you just go, oh, I don't really want to talk about that right now because I don't have the capacity to listen. It sounds weird. If somebody tells you that, how will you feel? I think you completely understand, and you understand that you've been there before. You had periods of no capacity to listen, so you completely understand. And not only that, you feel that they're more trustworthy because they are transparent about their emotions, and you feel that they're more genuine because they genuinely want to understand your feelings. That's why they don't want to listen when they don't have the capacity to, because they don't want to waste your time, they don't want to waste your emotional investment. And I think that's what makes a good friend. To become a good listener, you need to let go of your self-obsession. When we're talking to somebody, if you have social anxiety or you're not a perfectly mentally healthy person, and it is perfectly acceptable, you harbor a lot of thoughts while in conversation about how you appear, how you're sitting, what you should say next so that the conversation doesn't become stale or awkward, instead of actually listening. That should be the priority. This obsession with yourself when listening to people is what makes you appear inauthentic and untrustworthy. I think a truly virtuous person will be very, very, very careful about how they listen to people, and they'll value it a lot. So if you want to be a good listener, never ever rush to advice. They don't need your advice. Unless they deliberately ask for it, you don't have to provide it. It won't become stale, and silence in a conversation is perfectly understandable. You don't have to rush to spit something out of your mouth. You don't have to rush to go talk about your experiences and what will happen then. Never rush to advice. If a good suggestion pops in your head, then by all means. But I find that because we are so afraid of the conversation dying and them finding us uninteresting, that we try to just spit something out that most of the time it's either not even in line with what we would actually do, or it's the most obvious and dog water, zero value advice. So never ever rush to advice. Always focus on listening. Listen to every detail. Listen to how they feel. By that I mean listen to their tone. Listen to how they paint the story. Ask questions. Tell them how you would feel in that situation. Let them talk. Let them finish everything they have to say. Really, really listen to them. If you're not actually listening to them, how can you say that you are a virtuous person? How can you say that you're a valuable friend? If you're not going to actually listen and pour your capacity into focusing on how they feel and how they think, just tell them that you do not have the capacity to listen. And if you're too afraid to be honest in that way, you're going to risk a lot of awkward conversations with zero value. You're going to show that when they speak, you don't actually listen, and you give terrible advice, and you rush to give advice without actually listening to properly how they feel. You're going to be a very uninteresting person to talk to. And not only that, the value of your advice and suggestions are very shallow because you just try to come up with something as soon as possible to avoid awkwardness. When people share things with you, they'll get incredibly irritated and the conversation will dry up fast because they don't know how to take your absolutely useless advice and your annoying ass who keeps trying to talk when they are just simply trying to speak about themselves. When somebody finishes sharing a part of their life or a part of how they feel, they really don't care if you have anything to say about it or not. If you're actually listening, you look like you're listening. and they can feel that you're listening, and they do not mind the silence at all because they will feel like you genuinely care, and they will be more invested into that conversation. They'll be more comfortable around you. To increase your capacity to listen, you need to take care of your own mental health. For me, I find that my mental capacity is absolutely taken away by obsession with progress on YouTube, obsession with gym progress, my family being incredibly emotional, volatile, my worries for my sister. My brain is always taken away by these things. So my capacity is being torn apart by fear, ambition, anger, worry. It's very, very difficult to listen sometimes. And that's completely okay. Your friends will understand if you say you don't have the capacity to listen. And there will be times where you have the capacity to listen, so you don't need to be worried about that. It's impossible that you're forever torn apart. And if you are forever torn apart, please message me. Alright, we'll talk about it. But some ways we can deal with this is my favorite phrase, meditate and journal. Meditation helps you, focus into the present moment, focus at what they're saying, and letting your mind let go of all the thoughts you could harbor from all those different endeavors and all those different people in your life, and only focus on the person you need to listen to. And that helps you increase your capacity because you can willingly focus. Journaling helps you actually increase your capacity because you pour it into a piece of paper. You basically move something from your storage space to the hard drive, alright? And then that opens up your capacity, your drive runs more fluidly. Sure, journaling will never be as intimate or as tangible as talking to a real person, but it definitely does serve as a very significant substitute. Like, it serves its need, and it's definitely better than nothing. And you should also be willing to share about yourself. Let's not talk about the good listener thing, alright? If you are always listening and nobody's ever listening to you, you are naturally going to have zero capacity. None of your feelings are validated. You are in constant confusion and lost with your own mind. How the hell are you going to listen to other people? You have zero capacity for that shit. If you are always the one listening, you have this caretaker trauma bond that you need to toss out of the window as soon as possible. That thing will tear you down for decades if you do not catch it and if you do not stop it as soon as you can, especially at a young age. There's so many opportunities and friendships built at a young age. You need to toss it away as soon as you can. Get rid of this caretaker mindset. If you're always listening and nobody's listening to you, that's a problem. And it's not their problem. It's because you never ever share about your own problems, and naturally you surround yourself with people who only want to share about their own problems. And naturally people who only want to share about their own problems will come to you more, so that they can emotionally dump all their baggage onto you and then bounce and have actual relationships with another person, and you'll just be milked and used for your existence to absorb part of their emotional baggage, and then they will bounce. You need to be talking about how you feel too. And I understand if your whole life you spent being a caretaker and only listening, you will surround yourself with people who only want to speak and not want to listen. So when you first start speaking about yourself, seemingly nobody will care, but you will start finding people who will care, and you will start finding genuine friendships. But that's only if you can make that change and be willing to accept that the changing period, the phase of changing into somebody who can talk about themselves is extremely painful, and you'll be rejected. And people will look like they don't give a shit, but that's because that's who you're surrounded with, and they expect you to just sit there and listen. If you have no one to talk to, message me on Instagram at nonref.progress. That's a good start. So be honest. Whether you have capacity to listen, you are not going to become the perpetrator of their negative emotions if you say you don't have the capacity to listen. They're not going to become more lonely if you tell them you don't want to listen, alright? I don't think they really give that much of a shit. Maybe they will 10% of the time, but that is none of your business, alright? You're not some saint or martyr sent down to you're not their Lord and Savior. And if you think that you're bigoted and naive and narcissistic as fuck, you need help. Be honest when you don't have the capacity. If not, you're going to create a cycle of resentment. You're going to create untrustworthiness. You're not actually going to listen, and they'll feel even more lonely. It's just a recipe for disaster. Actually listen to what they have to say. Like, actually listen. Don't say anything until you've properly processed what they say. Of course, you can show them you're listening by confirming something they said, or nodding your head, or saying yes, or whatever. Of course, that's fine. You should not be obsessed with how you appear. You should not be obsessed with trying to say the right thing or the most valuable thing you can think of off the top of your head. You should be focusing on them. You should not have any self-obsessed tendencies like, oh, should I put my hand here? Should I look into their eyes? Should I tilt my head in a certain way? Should I put my leg in a certain way? It should never be like that. Your brain should only be thinking about what they are saying, and your body will naturally follow suit. Don't think about what to say. Don't even think of the best suggestions. Simply listen. Just listen. You don't have to give advice unless they deliberately ask for it. Like, I need your advice on this, or what would you do in this situation? Then you can go crazy with your annoying ass advice, which I'm sure sucks because you're stupid. Unlike me, I'm the smartest in the world. And many people say that you shouldn't talk about yourself while listening to somebody. I think that if you are genuinely listening and a serious thought about something similar that you've been going through that is in line with what they say, I think that they can see the authenticity when you start talking about yourself. But that's only from actually listening. If you're only talking about yourself because you lack the capacity to listen, so something has been bothering your mind and you're still caught up about it and it relates to this situation, so now you're emotionally dumping back onto them, now that's a problem. That goes back to the first point. You should have told them you have no capacity to listen. But I think there is authenticity if you naturally start talking about yourself when you're actually listening. Yeah, I think that's okay. I don't think they will be turned off by that, because if you are actually listening, like properly, like it's an internal thing that you kind of have to manifest. There's no way to display that you're listening. And you should not be displaying, how can I look like I'm listening the best as possible. You don't have to think about that. You simply have to actually listen. Just focus on every word they are saying. Focus on how they feel and paint the story they are telling you in your head. Third, take care of your mental health. To free up capacity, you need to take care of your mental health. You need to fully think through things that are bothering you. If something keeps coming up that happened like 2 months ago, some terrible thing happened and it keeps bothering you, likely you are not over that, alright? So you need to sit down and deliberately go after it, even if it hasn't popped in your head. You need to find time, think about that thing deliberately, and investigate it until you're satisfied. And don't settle with a simple, quick solution to it. Alright, you want to think through everything you can. Sit down like 30 minutes and think about that situation through and through. Get it out of your mind. Understand every choice you could have made, every option you could have taken. Understand how you felt, or try to heal as much as you can from that situation. If you never ever go and tackle things that are still bothering you from months ago, you are very rarely going to have capacity to listen to other people. For me, I had a month and a half-ish of not even being able to listen to my sister, and I couldn't pinpoint why. But it's because, I was still harboring emotions about how my sister willingly kind of online dated my friend behind my back, and he's freaking overaged. She's underage. He was grooming her. If you saw my old video, you will understand that thing was in my mind, and I was so angry about it. I was angry with my sister, but I never voiced it out. At least I didn't fully voice it out. I didn't properly voice through everything I was thinking about. I was just rushing to get over that situation. So my sister willingly got groomed by a friend of mine that was a close friend. Entirely disturbing situation. But we moved. I didn't proper time to fully get over that. I thought thinking about it for a few days would change it, but it still kept popping up, but I just kept pushing it away. Then only a few months back have I properly got through that, and now my relationship with my sister is stronger than ever. So you have to take care of your mental health. I meditate and journal every day. To be honest with you, I haven't meditated in a while, but we don't talk about that. We're talking about you here, right? If you meditate and journal effectively, you're going to find a lot more capacity in yourself to listen, to talk to people. You're going to be less self-conscious. It makes listening much easier. And I think that being willing to become a good listener and being willing to learn how to be a good listener is a great step in the right direction. Most people are not even aware that they suck at listening, and most people don't even want to be good at listening because they want to stick to shallow friendships and not be conscious about their options and the choices they make while forming relationships. And it's quite a painful thing to be concerned with your choices and concerned with how you portray yourself. It's not an easy thing at all, because there's so much to consider, there's so much to improve. It's a whole different journey when you are actually concerned with being a better friend, being a better listener. Or maybe you have terrible intentions, like you just want to be more popular, or you just want to be more worshipped, or you just want to be a more valuable friend. I say terrible intentions, but I honestly don't give a shit what the intentions are. If you want to be a good listener, you want to be a good listener. If you want to be a good friend, you want to be a good friend. Go crazy with your intentions. All power to you. Becoming a good listener will absolutely change all your friendships. You'll start finding actually genuine people who will listen to, and not only that, they will respect you for giving them capacity. Being honest if you don't have capacity, not only will they respect you, they will have a lot of admiration for you. You'll be much more trustworthy. Your time will be much more valuable because you're honest when you don't have the capacity. Your conversations will be so much more meaningful, so much more interesting, and so much more intimate, and you'll make great connections along the way. So let's go form genuine relationships. Let's go find genuine people. Forming a good relationship with someone is absolutely fulfilling, and it will carry into every aspect of your life. It will give you gratitude. It will give you reasons to look for more good experiences. Seeing the beauty in forming genuine relationships is a huge shift to your worldview, and it makes you so much more grateful, and it makes you so much more excited when you actually have genuine people in your life. Let's go find the people we deserve to better world. I'm actually so out of it right now. What the fuck? I'm so out of it. Holy shit. Wake up. Wake up.